Community-engaged research and learning activities are future and change-oriented initiatives, engaging diverse stakeholders in a collective learning process, stimulating them to look at research problems and societal challenges from a variety of perspectives, challenging them to integrate various forms of knowledge, collaborate across disciplinary, institutional, cultural, and socio-ecological boundaries, for taking targeted and responsible action. Cerls can be messy, challenging, and cumbersome. But in their most mature forms, when goals, capacities, and strategies are well aligned, they are impactful and empowering processes, allowing diverse stakeholders to co-create desirable futures, building on today's dynamics and resources for shaping a more democratic, sustainable, inclusive, and just tomorrow. In order to capture the multifaceted and complex dynamics of Cerls, we modeled a comprehensive design framework, building on a three-phase developmental path. Starting with a first phase targeted at personal transformation, impact at micro level. Through a second phase focusing on interpersonal, group, or institutional transformation, or impact at the meso level. To a third phase of societal transformation, intergroup or interinstitutional changes, or impact at the macro level. The three phases should be considered a dynamic continuum where each phase allows for qualitative learning. Establishing sustainable and impactful Cerl strategies asks for continuous feedback loops within and across micro, meso, and macro levels, creating horizontal and vertical connections that allow for knowledge transfer between various stakeholders, spaces, and events. For achieving positive interactions through such multidirectional flows of knowledge, Cerl initiatives need to be designed and delivered intentionally and thoughtfully. Three dimensions seem to be important within this regard: the level of authenticity, intensity, and complexity. The level of authenticity refers to the extent to which Cerl participants are immersed in a real-life situation and are allowed to take ownership over the learning process. The complexity dimension relates to the scope of the research topics and methods, varying from being rather focused and straightforward to more ambiguous, multidimensional, and chaotic. The intensity level refers to the spatiotemporal characteristics of the adopted strategies. Some initiatives can be limited in time, scope, and interactivity, whereas others will target innovation or change at multiple levels and therefore asks for higher levels of commitment and longer-term interactions. All of these aspects need to be well aligned with the intended outcomes, the capacities of the involved stakeholders, and resources available for realizing planned activities. By gradually increasing scope and ambitions, Cerls will become more impactful at the personal, institutional, and societal level. Through targeted scaffolding of the learning process, increasing levels of intensity, complexity, and authenticity, Cerl projects will evolve from being pre-described to open-ended, enhancing both engagement of as well impact for the involved participants. By increasing intensity, complexity, and authenticity of engaged practices, groups, teams, and institutions involved in Cerl projects can gradually develop a diversified and responsive engaged offer. At the macro level, truly authentic, intense, and complex engaged practices can thrive continuous societal transformation or renewal. The model we put forward allows Cerl practitioners to explore adopted strategies from a variety of perspectives: that of the students, university staff, community partners, citizens, policymakers, professionals involved. It was developed to facilitate monitoring and assessment at short, mid-long, and longer term, taking outcomes at micro, meso, and macro levels into account. Although it is represented as a cube, it is important to understand it as a dynamic set of relationships, constantly interrelating with one another, changing the dynamics and synergies at play. Collaborative manipulation of the cube allows Cerl practitioners to navigate, understand, and anticipate for various boundaries, preventing what was learned to be disseminated or materialized in future-oriented actions and outputs by actively taking the antagonistic dynamics of Cerl strategies into account. One could think of each articulation in the cube as a moment or space of conflict, capable of generating overwhelming feelings such as confusion, frustration, fear, tension, discomfort, distrust, resistance, panic, or apathy. These nodes of crisis can foster new understandings and ways of handling, but they can also hinder transfer or flows of knowledge when one fails to provide in-apt strategies to bridge diverse experiences, interpretations, schemes, or events, translate, integrate, or transform insights into actions as to promote positive change or innovation. This can be due to shortcomings in capacities, supportive facilities and resources, a lack of transparency or unclarity about expectations, goals, roles, and responsibilities, failing techniques for translating to a variety of contexts, a lack of reflective and critical attitudes, reluctance to change-oriented ambitions, or, more badly, unwillingness to critically assess and deconstruct forms of injustice, exploitation, or unsustainability. The Cube framework offers a set of questions guiding quality design, monitoring, and assessment of Cerl strategies, helping Cerl participants to develop shared language and ambition, making them more aware about each other's perspectives, assets, and needs. It can serve as a lens for exploring critical interactions, emergences of horizontal and vertical connections, creating places where communality begins. Help them renegotiate the boundaries of responsibility and build collective agency in and through action.